Trasacco home of CEO Nana Appiah-Mensah to demand their locked-up funds.
Our money, our blood. Our money, our blood. So, boy,
it's number one so special. Give us our coins and we'll be at peace.
They've been arrested and we are sending them to the regional police headquarters.
We have details as the customers remain behind bars more than 6 hours since the arrest. National Council for Tertiary Education lashes out at TUTAC over its indefinite strike, saying their allowances have not been paid because they have failed to submit data on deserving staff.
It's indefinite. The simple reason that responds to your why is that the fair wages ruling we comply with, government has not complied with it.
We'll tell you why TUTA claims its action is justified. President Akufo-Addo wants a permanent solution to Nigeria's border closure and law banning foreigners engage in retail trade in Ghana.
Some of the problems that you know about, we need to find a resolution to them as soon as possible. Trade and issues of the border and our own internal problems here with some of the Nigerian.
The proposal is accepted by the outgoing Nigeria's High Commissioner to Ghana.
Nigeria, Ghana happens to be the power engine of the sub-regions. We need to trade more. We need to talk in terms of more of integrations. We need to remove the bottlenecks. We need to generate employment for our youth.
And in business, IMF warns the cost of financial sector cleanup could be more than what government has initially projected.
And later in sports, Star Times named as television rights holder for the Ghana Premier League and the FA Cup. Also, despite their poor start to the season, Hearts board chairman Dr. Nyaho Tamakulu believes they will be champions at the end of this season's Ghana Premier League.
And later on Newsnight, US President to immediately impose additional economic sanctions on Iran hours after the country carried out a missile attack on military bases housing US forces.
Will immediately impose additional punishing economic sanctions on the Iranian regime. These powerful sanctions will remain until Iran changes its behavior.
We have details as international relations experts are warning Ghanaians are not immune from happenings in the Middle East. Also, China has launched an onslaught against the U.S., accusing the Trump administration of spreading falsehood about the Asian giant's counter-terrorism measures. We have details with all that and more here on Newsnight, brought to you by Puma Card from Puma Energy, cash-free convenience. I am Emefa Apawu. Details shortly.
Our money, our blood. Our money, our blood. Our money, our blood. So, boy,
Meti mi wo emoja nkwa na me and I be probably can me wona na wana gumi prego. People are dying in their rooms because of it. People are dying in their rooms.
Tears, chants, drama, and arrest. A summary of the fate of over 100 aggrieved customers of gold dealership Men's Gold who thronged the Trasacco home of CEO Nana Appiah-Mensah to demand their locked-up funds. The group, with members carrying bags, valises, and other receptacles, told my colleague Komladum they would only leave the home of the CEO if they are paid their monies. Francis Owusu led the bunch of agitated customers on today's march, which landed them behind bars.
we will resist with the last drop of our blood, because this money is our hard-earned what? Money. We are calling on the good people of Ghanaians to come in and support, especially the state, because Nana Appiah-Mensah thinks he's so smart. He can have the state security apparatus to protect and support him. Our money, our blood. Oh boy, oh boy. Fellow customers, we are not here to fight with anybody. We are not here to cause any commotion or destroy any properties. We are only here to visit Nana Appiah-Mensah and demand for our investment. That's all. For more than 1 year, our capital, our investment has been with him. He has been telling lies upon lies that he's paying our money to us. Meanwhile, over 16,000 customers of Men's Gold have not paid a dime to us. That is why we are here, for every Ghanaian or each and every individual to know that this guy is not paying us.
So you heard that Francis Owusu, he led a bunch of the agitated customers. My colleague Komladum saw it all, and he joins us in the studio. Tell us how it all started. How did they even decide to go to Nana Appiah-Mensah's house uninvited?
Well, Emefa, these are customers who were bused from Takwa, some from Kumasi. So there were about 4 or 5 buses, that had brought these customers to Accra to join their colleagues here in Accra to, in their words, pay a visit to Nana Appiah Mensah. And they say they were going to just have a gentleman's discussion with him to demand from him when the monies are going to be paid. In fact, they carried bags along because they had some hopes and expectations that they were going to live there with monies in their bags because of the assurances they had been given. And so they marched through some parts of the streets, and then when they got to the entrance of the estates, of course, because an estates, access to the place was not easily.
Talking about.
Access to the place was not easily, available. So they had to face some resistance from the private security officials at the gates. There was a back and forth, and then before we knew it, the gates were opened, and then the customers moved into the premises, and then went to station themselves right in front of the house of Nana Appiah Mensah. And the hours we were there, nobody came from inside the premises to come and speak to them. You could not see anything from where you're standing unless you climb like at the other adjoining buildings to get a view of what's happening inside the premises. And so these customers, even though they did not have anybody come to speak to them, they had some determination somehow that they were going to get their money, so they were going to spend the night there. And these emotional ones could not hold back, but explain to me why they had to take the step to move to the home of the chief executive officer to demand their monies.
It's annoying. Only one person you people are protecting, and so many people are dying in their bedrooms. What is it? It's now one being made by God, and some of us have been made by the sun.
I'm sorry about everything that's happening, but how much of your money was invested here?
Sometimes I do not want to disclose my money on the air because when I mention it, my heart, it's annoying, my brother. Today, me, some of us were ready. They can use our blood to rewrite the history. That one person have duped the whole nation, and they are protecting him. We are sick and tired. We are sick and tired. One person have duped the soul of people. People are dying in their rooms. Because of it, people are dying in their rooms. It's number one so special because all of you are benefiting from our money. Give us our coins and we'll be at peace.
Me too, me maguya. So me come up ready here, and I got a system why they. Oh, I go for the journey back home, money. I'm about and then why you may Obidu cannot be used to get a baby. Yes, sir. No money to do.
She says she traveled out of the country to go and then hustle and make some money, and she came back and invested all that money into the gold dealership firm.
Metewana mete omo hu baby de me ko honom yesi a Google company no. Me this can ko to kapre kra manya bi. Mete ya mi wo emoja nkwa na echi me. Ena dia me po bi aka me wona na wona ku me prego.
She said since she made the investment, she's not even received an installment of the dividends that should have accrued on the funds, and so she has come here to demand her money. And how would you get the money?
I just am first can anko bank. Me this can come on Nana Appiah Mensah. The 10th September Nana Appiah Mensah to Safra Kasim leadership was say. Yamra ni enemies na se na se ni see ye no. Na okoji ni sika bi wo ba bia ba na am say sika na anka na insanity na sa basabasa nyina akọ. Eti anka yakoma nto ye mtie ba ye bisa ni mpo se nti sa no. Yankọ ne bia yankọ pa akufu ado achewa na bibia na so. Enkoma oni aban ni di ne die se no betimi aka say. O ma wie mu be 80% enti ma yan ha ye ho kra na. O be validation after validation na chi no. O betua ye ka asem o ka kire no no. Afa dia ye validation ni wie ya ye friend na mo na wonfa. Ya cho letter imprensa dia come na one reply letter no. Ye hu ya na mo ne dia beto abonten so start payment plan.
Let me just quickly summarize what she's been saying. So she says sometime last year there was a meeting between the leadership of the customers and Nana Appiah Mensah, who's the chief executive officer, about the modalities in terms of how to get the people paid, etc. She says Nana Appiah Mensah assured them that there was money aside the assets that had been frozen by the states. There was money that was set aside to pay the customers, and so there was going to be an agreement between the customers and the management of the company over a schedule of sorts that will be able to be followed in terms of payments.
So, the last lady you spoke to, at least, my tree is good. I heard her talk about some gunshots from Namuan's house or Nana Appiah Mensah's house. Tell us a bit more about that.
So, Emefa, while the customers were in front of the gate, agitating, speaking amongst each other, etc., and we just heard about 3 gunshots
from where I stood in front of a building, my back was facing the gate of a building, so I heard a gunshot behind me. And before I could turn, I didn't see anything, so we didn't even know where the gunshots were coming from. But the customers were firm in their belief that the gunshots came from inside the compound where Nana Appiah Mensah lives. And in like a few minutes, we saw a number of well-built men on motorbikes right from the other side of the estate and just rode in and then came to block the gate, the front of the compound. And then in no time, the police also arrived in their vehicles.
So how long were the customers there before the police arrived at the scene?
This should be between 30 to 45 minutes.
Okay, so now tell us, at the points that the police arrived, what then happened?
So in like a movie style, they began bundling all the people around there into the buckets of the various police pickups
Both
that have
men
been
and
brought
women.
in, both men, women, and even some children, because I saw one woman who had a baby strapped behind her. She was also bundled into the buckets of a vehicle. I saw some attempt to run away. I do not know if they were successful at running, but those that were still around that the police were able to get hold of were put in the buckets of the pickups and were driven away.
Now, you got to speak to the Accra Regional Operations Director, ACP Kwesi Fori. What did he tell you as to why they were there?
He mentioned that, first of all, the access to the estates was restricted. And so for the group of customers who have been able to get access to the estates must have been a breach of some privacy of sort, because this is a residential area.
But the gates were opened.
The gates were open because the customers literally forced their way in, because they faced some resistance at the gates by from two private security operatives who were in front of the estates. And so he says they had breached the Public Order Act. They had also disturbed public peace because they barged into the estate without permission, and many others.
We are from the regional police headquarters, mandated to police Accra. On no occasion have this group of persons approached the police that today they will be embarking on demonstration. No information to the police, and we all know that we live in a democratic country with rules, regulations, and laws. We have a Public Order Law, Act 491, and looking at the spirit and letter of that law, mandates every citizen to inform the police with any intention to demonstrate. Police has not been informed. And looking at this very environment, Trasaco, it is an estate meant for several people, and for this group of persons to invade the premises, assaulting the security details of the estate, and having forcefully entering the place to carry out such an illegal exercise definitely has something to do with the police.
And the people who have been picked up, where are they going? Where are you taking them to?
Violation of the law definitely calls for arrest. They've been arrested, and we are sending them to the regional police headquarters for investigation to commence.
So that's ACP Kwesi Fori. Quickly before we wrap up with you. We heard the customers say that they were only paying a visit. I'm sure you put that to ACP Kwesi Fori. He didn't consider this as a visit at all.
Absolutely not. He says this is unlawful entry because really the occupants of the estates were not expecting these customers, and so by their visit then the noise they were making must have disturbed the other occupants of the estate.
So after they were bundled into how many vehicles?
More than 12 police.
More than 12 vehicles. Then what happened after that?
They were taken to the Accra region office, where ACP Kwesi Fori told us they were going to continue investigations.
Okay, Komla, thank you. Let's speak to one of these customers. He was also picked up by the police. We're grateful for your time. For obvious reasons, we are unable to mention his name. Thank you so much for your time, sir. So you were picked up by the police. You're one of the persons that were picked up by the police this afternoon. What's your status now? Can you tell us?
Good evening to your choice listeners. The police arrested us, and we are currently in a police headquarters, CID or regional office. Yeah, so that is currently where we are now. They've taken our statement, so we are waiting for them to, tell us what is next. Up to now, we are still here.
So about how many of you? About how many of you are there as we speak?
About 150, roughly. Yeah, 100.
You're 100 or 150?
Yeah, 100 and around 100.
Over 100.
Yeah, about, yeah.
So have you been charged?
Yes, the charge is unlawful entry to the premises. Then the Republic Act something. So, but See, this is not demonstration. I heard the police man ACP saying we demonstration. We went there for demonstration. What we were saying is we heard that the Napia Mensa is saying he's paying or he has paid 200 customers. So what we also said, okay, fine. If you have paid 200 customers and we our membership, we cannot even confirm that one person has been paid. Okay, fine. You are owing us. So definitely we have to come to your house and come and also demand for our money. That's it. That is why we went there.
Okay.
So we didn't even do any noise. We didn't make any noise. They came and they saw that the whole atmosphere was calm. Everything was okay.
But how did you gain entry? How did you gain entry into the Trasacco estates? Because we know that until you have the person that you're expecting gives that clearance, you cannot enter. So how did you gain entry? Was he expecting you? Did you inform him about your visit?
There was a security man there, and we actually asked him that we should call Nanapia, informing that some people are here to see him. So he was saying he will not open the gate before, and we were a lot actually. To be honest with you, we were a lot. So definitely the people, overpowered him, and he also opened the gate. Then we all entered.
So would it be accurate to say that you forcefully entered?
Not force. Not actually force.
You overpowered the security man.
But it's not force. We didn't use force. We didn't even break the padlock or something. No, but there's padlock on the gate. So definitely we didn't, force to open the thing. No, he opened it. We spoke to him nicely, and we have to enter. Then go and see him. Before we went there, before there was this gunshot 4 times behind us. Then
gunshots from where exactly?
From Namwan's house, Anapia Mensah's house. So that's how the whole thing is about.
But why his home though? Because you didn't you didn't take the money to his residence. I'm sure you did so in his offices. Why then did you go to his residence and not his offices?
My dear, the thing is, we invested in his company.
Okay.
Then now, when you go to the company's offices, everything is closed. Okay. Let's not anybody act like they don't know or the nation doesn't know what is happening. Everybody is aware. They know. The offices is closed. Both Kumasi, Accra, Takwa, Akasua, printers, everywhere is closed. So you cannot even find a single person to even go to and address your issue to you or something. Recently, he came out that he's doing a payment schedule, blah 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 blah, and he's paying 200 people, whether they are ghosts or they are human beings or nobody knows. So for us, it's better we go to his house, go and demand for our money, because I can't find him in his office. All his management members, they are all gone. The offices is closed. You can't even serve him with your letter. If from a letter from the court, you can't even serve it. So what do they want us to do?
I understand, but now
everybody. Let's look at the issue holistically. Let's put everything aside. The guy is nowhere to be found, and we are living in a country that nobody is caring for ordinary citizens or caring for poor people. Look, my sister. Just recently, most of our, I can count about 8 of them, those ones that I know, that they are dead. Some of them, stroke, they are down with strokes. So what are they telling us? What are they talking about?
So as it stands now, you are still in custody. Have you engaged lawyers? What's the situation? You've been charged.
Yes.
Do you know your fate?
Our lawyers are in. our lawyers are in, so we are trying to sort things out with the police. The police, yes, they are professionals. They are doing their job, their work, and I would say I will commend them the professionalism that when they came they exhibited. That one you can't take it away from Kwesi. That man is awesome. He did well. Arrest them, kind of, but the guys did themselves so that no, we are harmless. So they have to use to calm us down. Oh, guys, you join the vehicle. Everything was okay. We didn't also resist arrest. Okay. So they took us there and in a friendly manner. Yes.
So would this deter you from your drive to get I'm asking if this arrest and the charges and all would deter you from your drive to retrieve your monies? Will you back down?
Money is blood. So definitely it will not. All that we're asking for is our money. That is all. 1 year, 4 months, 5 months now. People are dying. And he is sitting down in his house enjoying sleeping. Whilst people cannot sleep in their homes. Sister, how can a human being go to bed and sleep whilst his $6 million is with somebody? $6 million. You think it's easy?
Very well. We'll leave it here for now. We are grateful for your time. You heard there a customer of Men's Gold, one of those who were arrested. He tells us that the number is about 100 or 150 or so, he says. And they are all being kept at the Accra Regional Office. They've been charged, amongst others, with unlawful entry and disturbing public peace according to the Public Order Act. And we're still working the lines to see if we're able to speak to the police on what's the next line of action will be, as and when we're able to raise DSP Efia Tenge would speak to her on the matter. But I must say also that we've made efforts to speak to management of Men's Gold, but they say they would rather not speak on the matter. For now, you're still listening to Newsnight here on Joy 99.7 FM. Your thoughts are welcome. Is via WhatsApp and Telegram is 0244 340 437. Thankfully, we've been joined on the phone by the spokesperson of the Accra region, DSP Efia Tenge. We are grateful for your time here on Newsnight, madam. So how many persons exactly did you pick up from Trasaco today?
Yeah, well, thank you very much for having me. We have about 90 persons, 26 of them being females and also 51 of them being males.
And you've charged them with?
Yeah, we have charged them, first of all, with a conspiracy to commit crimes, to wage unlawful entry, and also offensive conduct. And we have also charged them with the violation of the Public Order Act.
Well, then what happens to them? Are they going to be granted bail? What's the next thing that happens after this, or they'll be processed for court? What happens?
Yes, as I indicated, all of them have been questioned, and they have been, their statements have been taken individually, and so we have given them bail. Not all of them have been able to meet the conditions of the bail so far, and each of them is to produce one surety to bail him or her, after which we are preparing to process them before courts within the shortest possible time.
So out of the 90, how many of them have been able to secure bail?
Yes, just about 15 minutes ago, the announcement was made to them that each one of them should try and see if they can get somebody to stand surety for them to be granted bail. So for now, I wouldn't know the number of people who have been able to meet that condition yet, but they were in the process of reaching people who can stand in to or as surety for them to be granted bail.
Well, in speaking to them or interrogating them or taking their statement, what exactly did they say they were there to do?
Yes, according to them, as we all know, as the story has been running since morning, these are these customers. They say they are customers, they have money with the CEO of Men's, and that's the big efforts to reach him, they are not getting to. And so this is the best way they believe they could get there. But what we are saying is that we share in their concerns, all right. But you may also have genuine concerns. If you don't use the right way, if you don't go through the right processes, you end up breaching the law. And from the look of things, they have planned that today they were going to go on this kind of protest or on this kind of demonstration. And we all know, we have stated it, that once we are in a democratic country, we are not in a banana republic. You can't just get up and act anyhow. Yes, we agree with you. We share your concern that yes, you have some money. But what are the processes? If you want to go on a demonstration, this wasn't the first time they have ever gone on a demonstration before, and they went through the right processes. They followed due process, and it was even with the police that had to even give them the direction, guide them through their demonstration. So what happened? All that we are saying is that it is too early for us to start that way.
Okay, but they insist it was not a demonstration. They were only paying him a visit to ask him where he is.
What kind of visit? If you are visiting someone on what invitation, where you have to even go and run security details down, push them aside, and forcibly enter. No. And we should know that in that enclave, it is not only probably Nana Apia Mensa that lives there. There are other well-meaning Ghanaians who are also living there. And definitely we cannot continue to live like this.
That's
why we had to arrest them.
Okay, we're grateful for your time. That's DSP Efiatenge. She speaks for the Accra Regional Police. Now, the National Council for Tertiary Education, NCTE, says the only reason why allowances of technical university teachers remain unpaid is because of the failure of TUTAC to submit the required data on other staff allowances. The Technical University Teachers Association of Ghana declared an indefinite strike to protest the non-payment of allowances due its members following the conversion of polytechnics to technical universities. National President of TUTAC, Dr. Solomon Kilson, tells Joy News their action was informed because of government's bad faith in complying with the National Labour Commission ruling last year.
It's indefinite. The simple reason that responds to your why is that the fair wages ruling we comply with, government has not complied with it. And that is why we want to bring a National Labour Commission attention to it so that they enforce that ruling. But the NLC boss called me yesterday and he wanted to bring all the stakeholders together to look at the case. But officially there has not been any communication. But we are hoping that there will be communication soon to determine the meeting date, and most probably that might be Tuesday coming also.
Has government explained to you why it hasn't been able to honor its part of the agreement?
No, my brother, we haven't sought any explanation. You see, we don't need any explanation. The thing is that there is a ruling. Do this, the other party should also do this. So if you have done your part and the other party has not done its part, the only thing is that person should do its part. Simple. Do you need explanation for this?
That's the National President of TUTAC, Dr. Solomon Kilson. Now, the NCT has issued a statement on the strike. My colleague Elton Brobe has a copy. Elton, what does it say?
Okay, the statement said that to start with, we wish to make it clear that neither the NCTE nor any member of government side that has been dealing with TUTAC on this whole issue of allowance, as far as we know, has ignored the NLC ruling. To claim also that the NCTC is being used by government to create impediment in a way of payment of the allowances it's an attempt to smear government inflating commitment to the technical universities, and also fails to appreciate the statutory role of NCTC in such an exercise. For avoidance of that, according to the statement, it needs to be understood that the NCTC on its own does not pay, does not decide who is to be paid or how much the person is to be paid. The determination is made between the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission and the Ministry of Finance, and payment is effected by the Controller and the Accountant General's Department. NCTC current role in such processes is to provide technical input and advice in related deliberations, and once decisions have been made and approval given, to ensure as supervisors of the tertiary education subsector that requests for payment are consistent with approval given before they are forwarded for necessary action. It is therefore puzzling to imagine how the NCTC could become the sole impediment in the payment of allowances to TU staff as alleged?
Well, we've been joined on the phone by the National Council for Tertiary Education, NCTE Executive Secretary, Professor Mohammed Salifu. We're grateful for your time here on Newsnight. So you indicate, amongst others, in your statement that TUTAG declined to join a meeting to resolve this matter. Tell us a bit more about it. It appears that they've been unwilling to resolve the matter. What exactly is the issue?
Okay, the issues at stake is about the payment of allowances to TUTAG members and indeed the rest of the technical university staff in accordance with their new status as a university. And you will recall that we have actually come a long way in their conversion to technical universities from polytechnics. The initial processes was to set up the system and validate staff qualifications in such a way that the standards will be equivalent in the universities. And once that is done, the principle we have always held is that then they'll be entitled to the same allowances. The problem is that when they were migrated in September 2019, when the salaries for university and market premium was paid to them, the allowances were not paid. And it was explained that the only reason it was done was that government wanted to show confidence, to reassure them that we are committed to migrating them. But because the allowances needed to be validated, at that time it couldn't be done immediately. So after the payment of the allowances, we wanted to go to the issue of the payment of the salaries. We wanted to go on to the allowances. And we've been in a tango since then. Because there are two types of allowances that are involved here. One for duty bearers, that's office holders, and the other one for the rank and file. The duty bearers are entitled to responsibility and entertainment allowance. TUTAG had made some claims that they have seen pay schedules of universities and they wanted exactly the same. But Fair Wages had indicated earlier that the rates at which the universities, public universities, additional universities were paying had issues, and so they wanted to resolve that. When Labour Commission gave the ruling, it was just reaffirming our policy, and an interministerial committee went to work to do the harmonization. And we paid the duty bearers because the data was submitted and we paid that. But the data for the rank and file staff, for vehicle maintenance, for rent allowance, especially those in relation to owner-occupier, we haven't had the data. And each time we indicate that this is required, TUTAG insists that controllers should go back and use the data on the polytechnic payroll. But that data is dated. A lot of changes have taken place since their conversion, and it cannot be used because this is a new payroll we are moving on to. And it looks like this is what has created the problem all along. And that's why it appears NCT is the problem. Because we have to validate before the payment is done. We haven't had the data, and they claim the data is with controller. If our controller is expecting us to provide the data. So that is the situation that has brought us to this point.
And TUTAG has not given an indication as to when they are able to submit the data that you are asking for.
Pardon me, I didn't hear you.
I'm asking if TUTAG has not given you an indication as to when they can submit this data, which will be the solution to all the problem that we're talking about.
Okay, we started discussing this thing way back in October, immediately after the salaries and market premium was paid without the allowances. That there was a need for this data to come, and they were insisting that that data is already available with controller, and so they are not going to be able to give us any fresh submission. And we've reiterated that several times. In fact, I think one letter that they have referred to, which we recently wrote to them, after we had cleared the allowances for the duty bearers, we sent a letter reiterating that the allowance, the data for the rank and file was still outstanding, and we wanted it by the 8th, which is like today. And they are presenting it as if we just suddenly woke up at the end of the Labour Commission ruling, and now we are pretending to be requesting data, when in fact it has a lot of antecedents to that.
Okay, but Prof, what then do you reckon will be the way forward in all this, because we need them also back in the classrooms?
Okay, it cannot be simpler than that. We just need the data. When the data comes in here, as you read in our press statement, our job is to do the gatekeeping role. Approval has been given by finance. There's a certain category of staff entitled to certain allowances. Bring the data, we just check the staff profile and match them to that. Once that is done, we send it forward. Otherwise, if you don't do that and somebody who is not eligible is paid something, I can be surcharged for negligence. So they should just allow us cooperate with the process, provide the data, and let us vet the data, and then they will be paid. Fortunately, we have engaged management at this point, and the management is trying to facilitate. Management of the technical universities to provide the data, and so that we can move forward on that. But otherwise, there's no contention whatsoever that they are entitled to allowances at the same rates that are duly approved for the universities. There's no argument about that.
Okay. Prof, we are grateful for your time. That's Professor Salifo. He's the Executive Secretary of the National Council for Tertiary Education. This is Newsnight here on Joy 99.7 FM. We'll go for business shortly. When we return, President Akufo-Addo wants permanent solution to Nigeria's border closure and law banning foreigners engaged in retail trade in Ghana.
Some of the problems that you know about, we need to find a resolution to them as soon as possible. Trade and the issues of the border and our own internal problems here with some of the Nigerian.
We'll hear from the outgoing Nigeria High Commissioner to Ghana, who is accepting the president's proposal, and then U.S. president to immediately impose additional economic sanctions on Iran hours after the country carried out a missile attack on military bases housing U.S. forces.
Will immediately impose additional punishing economic sanctions on the Iranian regime. These powerful sanctions will remain until Iran changes its behavior.
That's coming up later on Newsnight. But time now for business. George Riafe has the very latest. George, what's in business?
Hi, Emefa, and coming up in business, we'll be telling you what the IMF is warning that the cost of the financial sector cleanup could be more than what has been initially projected by government. And government ends 2019 meeting its inflation target. We'll hear from an economist what does it mean for the economy going forward. The business news on Newsnights is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one stop shop for all your office essentials. And First National Bank, we are the bank that understands your business. First National Bank, how can we help you?
So everyone says I'm a Kosia filler, but it's not like I'm nosy or go out to find out the latest filler. It's just that I get 50 megabytes of data free after paying for only the first minute of every call. And so I just keep discovering stuff minute after minute. That's how come I was minding my business, scrolling through my timeline, and I found out Coco has a new baby. Oh, and last week I learned Ken won the lottery. You see, Ken is my brother's friend. So hello, look who's about to roll with the rich and famous.
Enjoy even more value with MTN Free After One. You only pay for the first minute of your call on MTN Free After One, and the rest is free. Plus, you enjoy free 50 megabytes worth of data to browse your favorite sites. Compare where, compare there. So dial *315# to sign up. We day for you everywhere you go. Terms and conditions apply.
Mr. Bar has big dreams for his business, Bar & Co. Limited, and his family. Making them a reality meant long drives and queues. He's lost precious time struggling to pay his suppliers in China, Turkey, India, and other parts of the world. With the First National Bank global payment via our online banking enterprise, he now pays for all that in the convenience of his home or office, giving him time to focus on family and growing his business. Use our online banking enterprise to access Forex when you need it. It takes a bank that does more to help your family. So who's helping yours? First National Bank. How can we help you?
We give you nothing but the best. We stay above the rest. More quality, more affordability. Kingdom Books and Stationery. Everybody's going to the one and only shop where customer satisfaction is a guarantee. Kingdom Books and Stationery.
Oh yeah,
Yes, with our 30 days credit facility with no interest charge, free delivery services, and our free consultation on setting up your office, Kingdom Books and Stationery is unmatched in our delivery of quality and affordable office essentials, equipment, and furniture.
Experience world-class customer service in all our branches in Accra, Tema, Kumasi, Cape Coast, and Takoradi.
Call us on 0302-764-101
or visit our website at www.kingdomgh.com.
Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one stop shop for all office essentials and stationery. Terms and conditions apply.
Joy 99.7 FM, radio for the discerning listener.
You're welcome back to Business on News 9. Now, the IMF is warning that the cost of cleaning up the financial sector may be higher than initially projected by government. Now, this was contained in the fund's staff report released after it carried out an assessment of the health of the economy in November 2019. We have more in this Business Desk report.
According to the IMF, this warning is based on fresh data, which indicates that deposits of the banks and affected special deposit institutions are now more than what government projected. This, the IMF believes, poses a major risk to the country's budget. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, in the mid-year budget review for 2019, projected that the cost could hit 21 billion cedis by the end of 2019. However, it has so far spent about 12 billion cedis on this exercise. Government recently sought approval from Parliament to increase the cost to about 16 billion cedis. But based on this fresh data, the cost might be higher than what has been projected. According to the IMF, this additional cost may be coming from proper compensation of some of the investors of the affected institutions and some legal litigations. But despite this rising cost, some depositors are still struggling to get their investments and funds. The decision to fund this cleanup from the Consolidated Fund has also impacted badly on the total stock of public debt, which has hit 208 billion cedis ending September last year. It is one of the reasons why the IMF is again warning that the country is now closer to being classified as a high-debt distressed country. This is more of a warning that Ghana could have some challenges in meeting its debt obligations. For some, this development raises questions about the facts of whether or not the Bank of Ghana and the Minister of Finance used the right approach in cleaning up the banking sector. But the Bank of Ghana in recent reports has argued that the record profits and growth in deposits that the banks posted ending October 2019 were as a result of the completion of the banking sector cleanup.
And that was a Business Desk report. Now, government ended 2019 meeting one of its critical macroeconomic target, that is inflation rate. It dropped from 8.2 to 7.9% for the month of December. It achieved this after it revised the end of the inflation target during the mid-year estimate. But what does this mean for government's own credibility and even convincing donors, partners about government commitment to fiscal discipline? Professor Peter Korte is an economist.
A lower rate of inflation means prices are increasing, but not increasing at a rapid rate, at a fast rate. And that is a good signal for businesses and even for government, because when inflation is not increasing as fast as possible, businesses are able to plan. So are consumers able to plan their cost of living doesn't also deteriorate quite rapidly. So a lower rate of inflation below the target band is a positive achievement. It's a signal that the prudent measures that have been put in place are yielding some results.
Does it also mean for credibility? Because we've had in the past, this is just one of the several macroeconomic targets, but we had in the past where government went into the budget, certain macroeconomic targets, it ended the year not being able to meet it.
It's certainly good for credibility. One, you recall that we were in an IMF program and then we exited. And there were the speculation or expectation that once we exit IMF program, our macroeconomic targets will be off our target in terms of fiscal deficit, in terms of inflation, and so on and so forth. So if government is able to achieve an inflation rate below the target, that is a plus, because without IMF, it is able to achieve one of its macro targets.
Professor Peter Korte is an economist. Now, full construction work on the Accra Marine Drive project is expected to kick off this year. The project should have kicked off last year, but had some problems because of challenges in evacuating some of the tenants on the land. But the Ministry of Tourism says it has made some progress for work to finally take off. Let's hear from Barbara Otunjesi. She is the minister for the sector.
The Marine Drive project is in progress. I think the little challenge that we have had is with the relocation of those who are currently occupying the land. We are at the tail end of it. We are finally getting structures available for the art center artisans to move them from there. Then we'll have a free area, and then we can start some development. So it's on course. Definitely this year we want to at least commission 1 or 2 projects on the land by the end of 2020.
Tourism Minister Barbara changes to the stock market. Trading ended at the Ghana Stock Exchange without any stock witnessing change in price at the end of trading. In terms of returns for shareholders so far for this year, we've just done a little under 1%. And that's all for business on Newsnight. Back to you, Emefa.
Thank you very much, George. Some of your messages that you've sent in via WhatsApp. This one from Afote in Cape Coast. It says, I wonder what the regulators are doing to help the Men's Gold customers retrieve their monies. Will they sit aloof and watch things get worse? And he also talks about TUTAG and NLC and the NCT should resolve their differences and turn their attention to the casualties, which are students. Exams have started, and if the strike continues, the exam scripts will not be marked. And this one from Richard in Ablekuma. He says that it's sad you're still okay. I remember you even traveled all the way to the UK, and these same customers were trying to beat you guys, and now these same customers are dying. And then Kofi Sedu says Nana Appiah Mensah seem to be protected by the state. Why can't the state hold Nana Appiah Mensah before any competent court of jurisdiction for him to vomit the monies that he fraudulently acquired? He says. Winnie Emmanuel says he's from Navrongo. He says that the arrest of the Men's Gold customers were just a ploy by the security agencies to frustrate them. This should be handled carefully so that it does not incite other customers to react. And we have Musa Abatwa Kumasi says, I sympathize with these innocent Ghanaians who are going through a lot of trauma just to get their monies. Government is not doing enough to make sure Men's Gold customers get their hard-earned money back. However, government should apply DKM principle to pay Men's Gold customers, because what's good for the goose is equally good for the gander, he says. Edwin says, are these not the same people who demonstrated against the government when they were warned not to invest in this NAM1 scheme? And then finally, this one from Jay of Adenta. He says, hello, Multimedia. I congratulate you for shaping the landscape of the press and educating Ghanaians with the power of radio on your 25th anniversary of the birth of Joy FM. Please permit me to suggest that you want. Okay, so there's a lot of activities and plans in place, and Jay, your proposal is welcome. Thank you so much. Let's do sports now, and Benedict Owusu joins us in the studio. Premier League, and we have official media?
Yes, of course, and that's Star Times, and they are the television right holder for the Ghana Premier League as well as the FA Cup. Now, Star Times will sign a 5-year agreement with the GFA worth $5.2 million to be the exclusive television rights owner of the Premier League, as I mentioned. And meanwhile, the FA has decided to make highlights of the league as well as the FA Cup available to other television stations in a non-exclusive category. As part of the agreement, part of the monetary consideration will be used to produce matches and highlights of the Division 1 League, the Women's Premier League, and the Women's FA Cup to give the competitions the needed visibility. Well, away from that, Accra Folk Board member Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo says they will win the 2019-20 Ghana Premier League title despite their stuttering start to the season. Currently, they are without a win after match day 2, and that leaves them in the relegation zone. But Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo insists they will be crowned champions at the end of this season's league.
The target is to win the league. Definitely, that's our target. And you have the shock of your life. You watch carefully and see what will happen. Our target is to win the league. The performance of some of the club that we saw during the past week matches tells us that we can definitely win them. We didn't see anything exceptional in the play of other clubs. So we see, as Hausa man will say, grant the coin. That's all.
Hausa man will say what?
Grant the coin.
So that's Dr. Nyaho Tamaklu. Was speaking on Asempa FM's Sports Morning Show. That's the ultimate sports morning show with Moshoshu. Well, updates from the ongoing Gusa Games, and Roseboy is unable to clear 1.90 meters after 3 attempts, but she's still the Gusa Games high jump champion and the new record holder in the event at 1.85 meters, which is her personal best.
I'm so happy because this is first time of participating in such events, and I'm happy that I've broke my own record.
So tell me, what has been working for you? What has been the motivation?
My motivation is like I want everybody to support me. I want our leaders to support me. Even though it's not only prayers, but they can support me with petty things like training things, which will help.
Well, also today, Benjamin Azumeti of the University of Ghana has won the much anticipated men's 100 meters final with a time of 10.60 seconds. Edwin Gadai of UCC took silver in 10.64 seconds, with Hussein Ibrahim of UDS clinching bronze in 10.67 seconds. And Manchester United defender Harry Maguire is set for an extended period out after suffering a hip injury. Now, the number of matches Maguire will miss is unknown, but the concern for United is that his absence proves far longer than suggested on Tuesday by manager Oligos and Social, and that's bad news for yourself and the Manchester United fans out there.
Thank you very much, Benedict. Mind your own business. Now, we want a permanent solution to the border closure by Nigeria and foreigners engaged in the Ghanaian retail space. That's President Akufo-Addo's new message to the Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari. The Nigerian head of state in August last year ordered the partial closure of 3 borders to all movement of goods in order to check the illegal smuggling of food, especially rice, into the country. The closure has resulted in loss of revenue to some Ghanaian traders who use the route for their businesses. Now, though authorities in Nigeria say they will open the border later this month, there's doubt about it. Today at the Jubilee House, that issue, as well as foreigners engaging in Ghanaian retail trade, dominated discussions when the outgoing Nigeria High Commissioner called on the president for Olufemi Michael Abikoye. Only trade and integration will improve Ghana and Nigerians' economy.
The Controller General of Immigration in Nigeria has never been here in the last 20 years. The Nigerian High Commission, under my control, dragged him here. He attended the cadet graduation ceremony at Asin along with me, and 2 months after, the Ghana Controller General of Immigration also went to Nigeria, which to me is a way of strengthening our cooperation in terms of consular, in terms of strengthening some of those issues. But I'm not so concerned about the successes. I'm more concerned about what we still need to do more, Your Excellency. Nigeria, Ghana happens to be the power engine of the sub-regions. We need to trade more. We need to talk in terms of more of integrations. We need to remove the bottlenecks. We need to generate employment for our youth. Those are the things that is concerning to us here, and those are the things I need to talk about.
Now, President Akufo-Addo indicated his readiness to permanently address the issue with his Nigerian counterpart.
Relations between our two countries are strategic for us. Ghana and Nigeria have been working hand in hand together right from colonial times. The movement for independence in Nigeria, the movement for independence here in Ghana went hand in hand. For us here in Ghana, our relations with Nigeria are the very bedrock of our relations within the ECOWAS region, within the African continent, and within the world. Everything that we do, for us, that relationship is one that I can even call sacred. And we are determined that the future should see to even greater deepening and strengthening of that relationship. Your statement about the two of us being the powerhouses of regional development in West Africa is very, very apt. And we have to work together to make sure that the potential that there is within the West African region is finally unleashed for the benefit of and the welfare of our peoples. I think some of the problems that you know about, we need to find a resolution to them as soon as possible. Trade and the issues of the border and our own internal problems here with some of the Nigerian involved in Ghanaian These are matters that friends should be able to sit down and resolve, and we hope that both of them are going to be resolved and brought to closure so that we can continue this social and economic development on an even and positive keel.
President Akufo-Addo there. Now from one president to the other, this time America's Donald Trump says he will immediately impose additional economic sanctions on Iran hours after the Middle East country carried out a missile attack targeted at military bases housing U.S. forces in Iraq. In a televised address, the U.S. president said minimal destructions were caused with no casualties, adding the U.S. forces are ready for anything.
As we continue to evaluate options in response to Iranian aggression, the United States will immediately impose additional punishing economic sanctions on the Iranian regime. These powerful sanctions will remain until Iran changes its behavior. In recent months alone, Iran has seized ships in international waters, fired an unprovoked strike on Saudi Arabia, and shot down 2 U.S. drones. As long as I'm President of the United States, Iran will never be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. No Americans were harmed in last night's attack. We suffered no casualties. All of our soldiers are safe, and only minimal damage was sustained at our military bases. Our great American forces are prepared for anything. Iran appears to be standing down, which is a good thing for all parties concerned and a very good thing for the world. Nations have tolerated Iran's destructive and destabilizing behavior in the Middle East and beyond. Those days are over. By removing Soleimani, we have sent a powerful message to terrorists. If you value your own life, you will not threaten the lives of our people.
Now, Donald Trump also says the United States is ready to embrace peace with all who seek it.
The destruction of ISIS is good for Iran, and we should work together on this and other shared priorities. To the people and leaders of Iran, we want you to have a future, and a great future, one that you deserve. The United States is ready to embrace peace with all who seek it. Iran must abandon its nuclear ambitions and end its support for terrorism. The time has come for the United Kingdom, Germany, France, Russia, and China to recognize this reality. The American military has been completely rebuilt under my administration at a cost of $2.5 trillion. U.S. armed forces are stronger than ever before. Our missiles are big, powerful, accurate, lethal, and fast. Under construction are many hypersonic missiles. The fact that we have this great military and equipment, however, does not mean we have to use it. We do not want to use it.
Meanwhile, back home, an international relations expert at the Legon Center for International Affairs and Diplomacy, Dr. Yao Gebe, has warned that Ghana is not immune to the fallout of the U.S.-Iran conflict.
Iran has several options: a direct war, which will be very apocalyptic and insane, or a diffused kind of terrorist activities throughout the world, targeting American interests and American installations, and therefore allies of the Americans also would be targeted, like Saudi Arabia, Israel. The instability in the world means that Ghana will also suffer the consequences of instability, like oil price hikes, space war kind of, which we now call the cyber warfare. And so if one thinks that Ghana is in the ambit of NATO or the West, they can hack most of our installations and make them impotent. And I can foresee that this is what is going to happen, a kind of diffused, people call it low intensity war, and it's no longer low intensity. If they are convinced that these bases or whatever agreement you have signed with the Americans are being used as a platform for attacks on them, they would look at Ghana as an enemy. And that's normal in international law. I mean,
you heard rather Dr. Vladimir Intridan, so we can now hear from Dr. Yao Gebe as he's warned that Ghana is not immune to the fallout of the U.S.-Iran conflict. It looks like we're unable to bring you that. We're definitely out of time, but quickly we can hear from Dr. Yao Gebe.
Ghanaian citizens, and for that matter, West Africa, Africa, should be concerned about what is happening in the Middle East because it affects international peace and security. We are part of the international system. Already, I had talked about the pressure on oil prices. And in fact, if this will escalate into a level of an all-out international war, then we are directly affected. So Ghanaians, Africans for that matter, we are not immune.
You heard that Dr. Yao Geben. Just before we go, news just coming in. Meghan Markle and of course Prince Harry have stepped down from senior family, British royal family roles. There's more news on that when you log on to myjoyonline.com, and that's just coming in. And then Strong and Sassy is coming up next with Na Ashoko and the team, and they're talking about planning for yourself and the people who matter in this year. Please stay for that. I am Emefa Apawu. Log on to myjoyonline.com for more news. I'm grateful for your time.